guys are here. We're so excited you're here. Woo! Give yourself a hand. Amazing. Thank you so much for coming to the Awakening Ascension panel. My name is Cheri Arellano. I have a YouTube channel called the Ascension Sessions. And these, Laura, Tracey, and Laurie have been on the show already. There's interviews with them live if you want to see more of them. And they were gracious enough to have me here today and to give me this start. So thank you guys so much. I'm honored and really appreciate you. So just really quickly, I want to share how I got into this whole ascension topic. I really wanted to know what ascension meant to different people because there's so many definitions flying around out there. And depending on if you have a spiritual or religious background, you may even have been taught a certain definition of ascension when you were a child. So that's why I started my quest to find out more and to get their experiences because they've been doing this for 20 years, 20, 30 years. And so I love hearing their experiences and what it means to them. So today we're gonna get a little deeper onto the topic of ascension, multi-dimensionality, and even contact, and how contact can impact your own personal ascension experience. So thank you. We have Laura Eisenhower, the wonderful Tracey Ash, the beautiful Shima Moore, Laurie McDonald, full of wisdom and divine grace.
And that guy on the end.
Mr. Brooks Agnew.
I'm gonna move back so you come on over, Brooks.
Last night. So, you guys, you know, I feel like we've been talking about this topic for quite a while over the years, and I feel like it's evolving. It's an evolving, changing thing. And so I wanted to ask you, you know, what are the greatest changes you've seen or experienced on the topic of ascension from the time that you've started studying it into where you are now in your career and as you work with clients and just see all of these beautiful shining bodies of light? How has it changed? Laura?
I think it's just getting, more and more real. The reality checks, I think, have been huge. I know there's been a big expectation around the dates 2012, and a lot of people felt like, oh, nothing happened, but I thought that was actually a really good sign, because there's been a lot about this particular window period that just has been almost preyed upon. We look at, different Armageddon scenarios, alien invasions, all the things coming through movies, and the end of the world, and this prophesized date of, what's going to happen. And so a lot of us have understood it to be a time of ascension, the blossoming of human consciousness, and, a great awakening, which is like a death and rebirth. And the astrological alignments are really showing that it is a time of rebirth. And a rebirth, to me, is just kind of stripping away the blocks, the layers that have created masks, because we've been in this personality matrix that has mostly been about, who we are, what we're labeled, things on a very, very surface level. It's been easier for humans to carry facades or be victims versus just really going through the process of initiation to expand into the fullness of all that we are, appreciating both the positive and negative that comes along with that. And so I think, I don't know about how it's changed as much as, I kind of expected that there would be a dark night of the soul or a global detox. I think people are waking up still feeling a lot of toxicity, a lot of heaviness, a lot of intensity, a lot of pain. But we have to realize when the mother energy dropped back into the earth and the sun started to move through Ophiuchus, which is the 13th sign, it's the only astrological sign ruled by the ether. And so that's a purifying agent that is creating this big global detox. And as we know, when we do a physical detox, we just want to flush the toilet and not overanalyze what's actually in the toilet, because that's going to be a little disturbing. So it's just a time of massive clearing. And I think what I'm not surprised or unsurprised, I'm more just observing, but I think what I've seen in people is they're surprised, and I am sort of too, of how heavy and intense it still can be. But the 13th sign also is ruled by Chiron, and for us to actually move through this global detox and this sort of dark night of the Gaia soul that we're all participating in, we have to be willing to look at the wounds and the traumas and be a little bit more transparent and willing to take responsibility for them, do something about them, because if not, we create and have had masks and subpersonalities that act out, maybe in narcissistic behavior patterns or personality dysfunctions that can really impact the rest of us in a negative way. So I think what I'm loving to see is more people wanting the healing, wanting to be more open and honest about what they're going through, because authenticity is key, and that's the prerequisite to the rest of it. We have to be honoring of this process, the good, the bad, the not so nice, in order to get to the other side. And I think that's where we are right now. And I think it's a little shocking for people because I think we expected that we'd be a lot lighter, but that's coming. So I guess that's, I don't want to talk too much, so go ahead.
That'll never know.
We can work off the density of the wound to set us free. And these times are about our physicality, the embodiment of the interdimensional, the embodiment of sacred, the embodiment of all of the timelines. Here we have access to our ancient past and our most sacred future. In authenticity, we stand in the balance where our hearts are indeed in the counterbalance with the feather. The feather, the 0 point, allows us to stand on the threshold of ascension and eternity. When we do that, we can fly to the outer limits of our universe at work. When we do that, we can bring that sacred future to us and integrate it here. That is ascension.
Thank you. Shima.
Oh, well, you know, it's interesting because when I was preparing for this panel, I realized that I never really thought about my path as a path to ascension. But when I thought about it, I realized how many years ago it began for me with a download of information that I didn't even realize. People are talking about downloads all the time. I had no idea that that's really what happened, but it changed my life. Suddenly the whole, all information of all time came through. And it was a long time ago. And since that point, it changed my whole life. I began looking for how to access that within myself. I mean, for weeks I walked around and sort of like read other people's thoughts, and I was in a space that there was no one to communicate with because people were not at that place yet. And so I realized that that's really when my path began. And after that point, I received an experience in England, an experience called knowledge, and that brought me inside with a way to kind of control it and really go in and experience the oneness. But we didn't have this language for it yet. It was just experiential. And so it's interesting that we're speaking about this today because we just went into the new moon of Libra, the time of groups of connecting to the other and about balancing and harmony. And a friend of mine, Jeffrey Starfire, he's got wonderful water, if you ever have a chance to try it. This is from him, and it's about balancing energies. And right now it's about balancing our energy. Okay, we're going from the time of us to the time of me to the time of us in Libra. And also knowing, and this was something that came up this morning, realizing that there are some people that are just not going to hear what you have to say. They're just not. They're not quite ready yet. And not to feel like something's wrong with you because of that. It's just it's who they are and what the connection is at this time. So here we are now I realize ascension, yes, it's not like, I used to think, we're gonna all leave the body. No, I don't think that anymore. Now I know it's about just raising in our consciousness and at some point, being those light beings that many of us have consciousness of this time. So I'm like so honored to be on this panel with such esteemed presenters that I've kind of connected with at different times in different events, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you all for coming.
Well, for me, the Ascension might be slightly different, but it started for me personally and then professionally right in my late 20s. It was one afternoon I had done just an enormous amount of emotional clearing work. And I was as grounded as any tree and really felt like I was aspiring unto the light. And as I tucked my kids in later that evening and I was walking down the hall, I had hooked the laundry basket on my hip and I was cleaning up as the kids were in bed, and I heard my name called. I heard Laurie 3 times. And as I looked to the direction that I thought my name was coming from, I saw 3 violet silhouettes. And then in a very high, feminine, very rapid, fast energy, they said, you passed. And so as I looked at them, I felt slightly confused because I was seeing not only our world, but an open space world behind them. And so I kind of hung my head a little and I said, I passed. I died? I thought they told me I died. And I didn't really feel any different. And they asked me if I was afraid.
You were still doing the laundry.
I was still ready to do laundry. And they asked if I was afraid. And I said that I wasn't, that I had been waiting for them all of my life. And they asked would I like to see. And I said that yes, I would. And in that moment, I did leave my body. And I rose up and I could feel multiple layers of energy and density, and then everything came to a stop. But all around me was this like spiral of violet energy. It was almost like some form of cosmic elevator. And then it stopped, and there was a presence in front of me that I couldn't see, but I could feel. And after a couple of moments, and I felt as though they evaluated me or judged me somehow, but I still felt this sort of feminine energy behind me with these violet silhouettes. All of a sudden, it's like a door opened or a gate opened, and I literally burst into space, light years between my eyes. I looked down to see where my body was, and all I could see were stars and planets. And I said to them, but I'm still Laurie. Where's the rest of me? I'm still Laurie. So I was still grasping and trying to understand. So to me, the ascension process is the understanding of the multidimensional self, that we maintain our consciousness and awareness. But then, as I began to see things as they were, I saw in the distance this golden light, so brilliant. And as I saw it, my energy moved towards it, and I was right there. And it was 3 layers of golden energy, and it felt unbelievably beautiful. I don't think that I'm articulate enough to express the unconditional love. Every essence of me vibrated at a rate that was mind-blowing. And I moved into this golden light, and I knew that that's where we're going. This is our new space. This is our new home, our new world. And as I began to settle in, the ones that brought me to see said, you've seen enough for now. Mind you, I'm almost 30. And they said, we'll go back. And I said, no. No, I won't. And they're like, it's time for now. And I started to get uncomfortable. And these are the words they said to me. They said, do not fret, my child. You're only here a little while. And when they said the word here, I got an image of our earth as it appears today. And I still said no. Still said, yeah, okay, still not going. And then they spoke the names of my children. And on hearing the word Mandalee and Ryan, I became heavy and dense, and my energy began to come back. They brought me into my room and hours had passed. They laid me on my bed. And the last thing I said was, but I don't know your name. Please come back. And 3 nights later, they did come back and they did show me more. And so the ascension for me is understanding the emotional energies of each one of the dimensions. And they show me a little at a time. I'm 56 now, and over these decades, I've been exposed to not only my own ascension, but many other people's, and I'm totally in service of humanity and helping to raise that because they showed me the end game. So I, for one, do not believe in hopelessness. I don't believe that we're ever stuck. I know that we have that next empowered step, and together we'll rise into that ascension process. That's what it is for me.
Nice.
Thank you, Laura.
Wakarimashita. Wow, Ascension.
Yeah. Wow.
I always thought growing up that to ascend you had to die. I taught Sunday school for 24 years, 3 months, 16 days. And in that 900 lessons, I thought I had the light and the way. Excuse me. We need another guy on this panel.
Where's all the
So-
female energy?
Yeah, okay, now I can man up. The thing about it is, when you read the scriptures is one thing, when you study the scriptures is another thing. When you teach them year after year, you get higher and higher understandings. So then I go to James Gilliland's ranch to speak at a conference like this one. And there it was, August 17th, 2006. 24 years, 3 months, 16 days after I was called to be a Sunday school teacher. And then I connected to the mountain in meditation one night. Kind of was retaught meditation. So I'm sitting there meditating, and the mountain connects to me like a dryer hose, connected to my chest, to my heart. And I started feeling this kind of padding like this on my chest. And I thought, oh, well, James is playing some music in the house and he has the subwoofer, going, and I'm feeling those vibrations. But then I started to hear some sounds and it sounded like music, and then I realized it wasn't music, it was voices. It was voices like a choir, like they were singing, like just tones at first, but then I started to discern words, and the words were peace, love, and joy. Said it 3 times. Then at the end of that, it went quiet. Still connected. Great feeling, everything's wonderful, and then this voice came. And the voice said, because you are quick to forgive, you are forgiven. And it disconnected. And when it did, I felt this release of pressure, which jolted me out of my meditation. People were sitting around me going, are you ready to fall over? And I went, wow, did you see that? And they said, did you see that? And so they're talking about these gold plates and drawings and everything going in my back while this is all going on. It overwhelmed me. It was like right now. Anyway, that was my ascension experience. I didn't die. I just ascended. So
It's like we're so naive. We're just children still. in ways.
that was my graduation day. I graduated from reading the words on a book to really understanding what it meant. And then there were a series of meetings with the Ascended Master, with Jesus. In my dreams and my meditations, he would come to me and teach me things, like word for word, just face to face, like one person speaks with another person. And at first it was like I'm witnessing things that he's doing, and then others, he just looks up at me and says, now, do you understand? Piece by piece, it began to fall together, and I understood why we're here, who we are. And I understood why he came. He didn't come to teach us of his divinity at all. We all knew that already. He came to teach us of our divinity. And that changed everything for me. It changed my life. It changed my life. I was 52 years old. It's never too late. Never too late. That's my ascension.
Thank you. Thank you, that was powerful.
You can go now.
Some things.
Excuse me. Ascension is also about standing in our power, speaking up, creating extraordinarily healthy boundaries. I told you you weren't part of the panel, so could you please just respect that?
Absolutely, I'm leaving.
One second.
Hey, thanks very
Because
much. I needed that.
I've carefully constructed a project and a group of speakers who have their own signature frequencies. And we have to respect what Ascension is. And when we are in Ascension, we are connected with the sacred instructions which are allowing us to weave and create reality. And those sacred instructions must be completely honored as they are laid down to us, which is why people have badass ascension experiences, because what you experience is completely absolute. Everything that I am in terms of my ascension experience is because I've actually listened, and we're beginning to tear down the stereotypes, the inequalities, the lack of honoring. When I say no, it is because it is not personal, it's because it is sacred guided. And we must not place any guilt upon what is instructed as written by Spirit and God and Creator and the intelligence that can indeed instruct us if we choose to sacred honor these experiences, not to trivialize those experiences in any way, because this isn't about, I had that experience and oh my God, and you hold on to it and it's like a reference point forever, and then it becomes so enmeshed in the ego. Real experience is the absolute only way to go. But we're being called, and I mean, if I am called to speak my truth, I will speak my truth. I'm a caretaker, I'm a custodian, and what needs to be is that we can see ourselves through this ascension process, and we are not bullshitting it through spiritual elitism or false spirituality, which I cannot stand for a moment. Ascension is real, and we need to be real, and we need to learn how to really respect our own healthy boundaries and have them respected too. And if we have to call that into being, thank you for being the lesson. But we have to have it called into being, then we must do that, because we're consistently being called into ascension and evolution and speaking our truths. Yes? It's time. Yes. The lesson, you know, that's even a different concept in terms of a panel. I mean, everything's happening today.
Do you want to add to that?
No.
Okay. So as we go through this ascension, obviously the planet is going with us, right? We're not just doing it as humans. The Mother Earth is guiding us through this ascension. And I'd love to talk about the Earth's grid and how it supports us in ascension, and how we can get more in touch with the Earth ourselves and seek out a ley line and go sit there for a day to heal. If we need it, or if we're weeping, or if we feel, you know, some wound coming up, how can we just go sit? Do you have any, what are your steps or your tips for like just go sit outside on the grid and receive a healing and thank the Mother Earth and guide her and like honor her for helping us through this ascension. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Well, we are a replica of the Earth body as far as the energy grids and the stargates. We are a replica of that. In our ancient history, the stargates and ley lines were compromised due to a lot of cataclysms, exploding planets, and different wars that took place. The planet was knocked off its axis, and the stargates and the energy grids became compromised by dark technology like the Nephilim reversal grid and the naiadic crystal reversal energies that have created digression. So when we're born into this realm through osmosis, we pick up on the reversals. That's why we see as a humanity there's been injustices, imbalances between the masculine and feminine, and also illness, things that relate to our survival chakra, and we've definitely been in a digression. As of this window period, the energy has changed due to a lot of the grid workers that find locations on the planet, the power points particularly, to help correct those reversals. And with the Venus transits, which the Mayans understood about this critical time that we're in right now, and the energy work that a lot of awakened people have done, we are now in a phase where the energy grids are being healed and the ether is now available, which is helping us to recognize that spirit holds dominion over matter. And it's really the fifth chakra, because the fifth chakra is our voice. Anything that we create is based on an integration of polarity or some sort of merging into something. So if it's a mind control program, we spread the mind control through our voices, through our belief systems, through the way that we speak to each other, talk to each other, and that makes or breaks the balance, is our voice. That's why it's 5D Ascension. We have to get a grip on our throat chakra. When we're merged with our higher self, our higher wisdom, and we're connecting to the earth in this period that we're in, our voice print holds codes and frequencies that can help activate other people's DNA. So really it comes down to choice of words. We can make somebody's day, we can break somebody's day through the very use of our voices. We can carry a frequency that uplifts people, or we can have a tone of voice where people walk away just like, I don't know why I feel sick after talking to this person. So we are just frequency holders, and we get to choose what are we merging with. Because when we merge with the artificial, we actually enable the artificial timelines and our own demise. When we allow ourselves to merge with these higher principles and the earth energies, recognizing that this is the benevolent planetary consciousness that is guiding us, then our words reflect this, our actions reflect it, because our throat chakra is the co-creator of our reality, really, but it has to be aware of this, greater integration. So connecting with the earth, just really feel, into the guidance. You might feel called to the water, maybe, the earth, maybe, the air is a little bit harder. For 11 years, I wish that I could fly with my birthday candles, and in my dreams perhaps, but, there are ways, in dream time, because we're opening up, to more of our, greater abilities, but you might find that you just feel called to go to a certain part of the planet and go on a vacation or a trip. And we do a lot of energy work without realizing it. Our conscious mind can only handle so much. So just allow yourself to be guided. Know that the corrections are in place and the flow of the earth energies are allowing the true authentic nature of the planetary consciousness to amplify through our feet chakras and our crown, circulating throughout our system. Before, we were dealing with reversal codes and these dark technologies, and that's why the last 26,000 years has been so difficult, and why there's such an emphasis on this window period, because as of 2010, the sun started to move through the 13th sign, and the activation of that particular stargate ended up impacting positively all the other ley lines, which is why we're receiving the codes and the activations in our own physical body. But we have a choice in every moment. What are we going to attach ourselves to? The propaganda, the mind control, and allow ourselves to be infected? Or are we going to connect to what's authentic? Because we are the ones that are the activators towards each other. And we're the ones that are holding this as a replica. We have to be the ascension. We have to be the embodiment of what's going on with the planet, instead of this overlay of control that can usher souls onto an artificial timeline that can compromise them further. So in every moment, in every second, we can ascend and integrate these higher awarenesses by just paying attention to integrity and the words that we speak to each other. And that moment-to-moment process that we all undertake is how we're going to walk together and rehabilitate and truly ascend, is the good choice of words. So I love everybody.
Thank you. That was awesome. Tracey.
So,
As a grid worker. Good topic.
I'm a hard-hitting grid worker. I mean, I love it. In my prophecies, I'm often called to particular gateways to work and to initiate those who are called to create a very different reality. I always work with those individuals who truly care, who are not particularly attached to ego, but care about something more, and that is the future of humanity. In these gateways, we have the access to recalibration of the false matrix programming. So we have truth that is written, encoded, encrypted, locked into the sacred technology of our planet. It has been used positively, it has been used negatively. So when we, for example, I was sacred guided to and directed to create this project. I know how to play the 7 major chakras of the planet. I've been told what to do in terms of the sacred technologies, what we must do to go through into the central sun, and having real ascension experiences means that we must be prepared, primed, initiated through life or through consolidated and authentic, genuine training programs that are not contaminated by false matrix ideas, ideals, and values. Now, this is significant for all of you. The truth matters in our arena, which is part of the work that I do in terms of when we go to the gateways, we have the ease. It creates the internal time and space so we can view ourselves, acknowledge our programming, give us that recalibration with the planetary grid and then our own energy systems, our own chakras. So you're getting that reboot that makes your field strong and dynamic. The throat center, yes. I'm a gatekeeper of the Great Pyramid, the throat chakra of our planet. Now, when we get this activated, we're looking at the recalibration throughout all of our field. So, what do we have? 1 and 7, 8. 2 and 6, 8. 3 and 5, 8. And then heart, sacred heart. So you've got this completely different field which is recalibrated because what Creator gave us is a sacred planet over a false matrix. Get to the gateways, because the gateways are the keys to us going further and going beyond and rebooting our memories of our sacred contracts. And as a gatekeeper of the Great Pyramid, I was also present when the sacred contracts of humanity were laid down. I remember this. I was there. The technologies in ancient Egypt go live for me and with me as I step into those technologies. I understand them because I remember them. It's time to remember who we are, and it's time to go live in terms of our ascension capabilities. That changes the planet. You have been born with a sacred contract of destiny. You are the hope of the planet as long as you are primed, initiated, and encouraged into the high frequency journey. Shasta is an extraordinary interdimensional gateway that will give you legitimate sacred and metaphysical experiences. That's when we know our potential. So we should be sacred honoring this gateway because holy shit, it gives us everything. And often people go to the gateways and they take, and that is also not correct. So we need to learn what the exchange is with these particular extraordinary gateways. And you know what happens? When you learn about the exchange and the sacred honoring, you just keep getting more and more and more and more upgrades and downloads and empowerment and happiness and joy. And that allows you to withstand the hijacks and the timeline chasers. It allows us to stand in our power and say, I am a light worker and I stand for light. Boom! So we're about to step into our warriorship. And that is the discernment. These gateways give me the discernment and they give me the hope because I can constantly see what is possible in myself. And I can constantly see what has been possible before the hijack of the false matrix and being locked in this current time framework and how we smash it to smithereens. So Avatars was set up exactly for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shima, Stargate activator.
Well, you know, I feel like the first shall be last type of thing. I feel like so many years ago, and I know some of you in the audience have had this experience a long time that you've carried with you. And maybe didn't have all the pieces together. And for me, the pieces have been coming together, and as I look over my life, I see all the clues and all the insights that kind of were shown to kind of like get me on my path, keep me on my path, bring me to certain places. 20 years ago, I was brought to Mount Shasta and ordained Shima, which means love. I married more. I became Shima more love. Right? It's like, okay, great. I'll take it. The marriage didn't last, but the name stuck. And you know, before that I was Judy, and I never felt like a Judy. I tried all permeations of that, right? It just never really worked. So the universe decided for me. A couple of years ago, I was turned on to the Stargate in 2012. I was actually on a cruise for the Mayan activation, the center of the galaxy, all the coming together on the winter solstice of December 21st, 2012. And we had all these plans and we had like Richard Holden, we had all these people, you know, 3 layers of the ship, just all these things that we were gonna show, videos, and this whole thing planned. And that morning there were gale force winds, and the deck chairs were blown all over the place, and nothing that we planned happened. But that morning I picked up my Mayan oracle cards that had been sent to me when I was editor of Perceptions magazine back in the 90s. And I had never really used these cards, but I brought them with me on this trip. And I opened it up early that morning, and all the words were like profound. I thought, well, I'm gonna take this upstairs for the, you know, whatever. That turned out to be the invocation for the dawning of the next age, you know. And I was part of it. I did not plan that. That just happened. Years later, I was brought to Mount Shasta. Well, I was introduced to the Stargate experience, which is not about traveling around the world, which I'm like, you know, oh my God, I want to go. But the Stargate, just like here and now, and I wish I had brought it again today, it's a structure that activates the energy of the room and actually brings us up to the 12th dimension. And Laura was talking about the 12th dimension yesterday, and I so loved your talk right before I did my 5D star portal and was able to activate that energy and introduce people to how to activate that in themselves so that they're receptive to the angels, and they're receptive to the ascended masters, and they're receptive to their star families. And for me, that has made like all the difference in the world for me. I feel like I have stepped into my energy doing that, and that brought me here back to Mount Shasta in 2017 at a Stargate over Easter here in Mount Shasta. I just got, it's time for me to move here. And the mountain would not let me not think of it. It just kept coming up visually, it just kept coming up. It was like I knew it was time. I had no idea about anything other than the experiences I had had here of being ordained here and of the Stargate. I didn't know about the social life here. I had no idea of anything, but I just trusted, and I moved like 20 years of experience in Marin County, which for me was no easy task, to come up here. And my life, I feel like I have stepped through the veil into the place where I'm supposed to be, where I don't feel affected by the false matrix. I know it's there, but it's out there somewhere, and I've stepped into a whole other reality, and it's so amazing. It's just really amazing. So Mount Shasta is not for everyone. It may not be the ley line and the grid, the place of power for you, but you're here now, so you're getting a part of it in whatever capacity that is. But just tune into your heart. Tune into what, just the inkling. It doesn't have to be like even that absolute knowing, just into that feeling of where you're being called to be and what really is your truth. What makes you feel good? What makes you feel like you want to give back? Because we're at a time where it's time to give back. We all have to do that. We have to help those who have not kind of like, telling them, well, you got to wake up, just coming from our heart to let them know that just touching them from that place, that's really what it's about. So may you find the place that you are meant to be at this time, after this time, which is all this time. Yay!
Which is all now. It's all happening now.
It's all now.
Thank you.
Well, there are a lot of magical places on the planet. The planet Earth is a beautiful planet of abundance. It has enormous energies. I personally was called to Angkor Wat outside of Siem Reap in Cambodia, and we spent several months all through Southeast Asia visiting some sacred sites. There was one day, which was so unusual, was at Angkor Wat. There was nobody there. I don't know how that even happens. We had taken motorcycles and parked them, and I climbed up one of the step pyramids and had gone into a little temple, and it was cool and quiet. And I sat for a while and meditated. And all of a sudden, when I'd finished meditating, I got up and turned around, and sitting in the middle of the room was a yellow candle that had been lit somehow. We're not sure how that happened, and it's actually not the first time that's happened, but it was the first time that that's happened in such an unusual place. And so there are certain areas that the portals and the portal energy is so strong that it seeps out and awakens you. I was there to go also to Vietnam, where there were some portal energies that generally it happened back during the Vietnam War, when both the Vietnamese and the Americans combined forces to fight specific UFOs like that came through a second dimensional portal. There were very large entities that came through near this small village in Cam Lo out in the jungle off the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So we went there, and certainly the portal energies are strong, and some of the stronger energies maybe don't exactly resonate with the third dimensional model of your reality. Because they're going to be knocking on doors, and you're going to have to open and lift the mind to a place where you're able to actually process some of the things that you're seeing. in the third dimension here, and I'm all about the human experience. I've said a million times that every extraterrestrial that visits this planet has one thing in common, and that's us. That's because the human, and I'll just say it again, is the light embodied being. Hue is that word we use for light, or to measure the depth or saturation of light. Man is short for manifestation, to come into the physical, to be embodied. So a light embodied being is the definition of human, and gender and race are subcategories of that. And when we do understand what we are, it does make it more apparent what our mission is here. So there are people that are on an accelerated learning path during this ascension process, and these people will have suffered. They will suffer greatly. They'll come from abusive homes. They'll suffer from drug and alcohol addiction. They'll display narcissistic behavioral patterns. They'll self-sabotage their self. They may be dyslexic and put into a different class. Each and every one of these things are just simply opportunities for you to call upon the inner observer to look at the experience, learn from it, rise above it, and help those next who might be suffering. Each and everything that we experience is neither good nor bad. It is simply an experience. It is the opportunity for us to learn and raise that conscious energy. And all of the conscious energy that we're raising, just like Brooks and I said, we both thought we were dead or should have died to receive the ascension. It's like being in the kindergarten of the cosmos. It was a long time ago for both of us. So we're probably all the way up to the first grade. Yeah. But that's what we seem to think. That's what it's going to feel like. But in a way, all your belief systems, that core belief, they dissipate. They melt away. And the emergence of the true multidimensional self makes an appearance onto the planet. And the words that you speak and the energy that you exude raises those around you. There are lots of places to go, but even in your own backyard, just connect with nature, take your shoes off, settle in, settle down, become calm and relaxed, and give and receive. Open that heart chakra. So I'm all about the root chakra, like the planet, like Mount Shasta herself. That's about a strong, well-grounded emotional foundation that allows us to heal the wounds in the sacral chakra, the second one, giving us the ability to take back our power through the solar plexus, opening the heart chakra from a strong, empowered place. Then we raise to speak our truth. From a place of love and personal empowerment, we speak our truth, tapping into then the higher pineal gland for that deeper intuition, so that we understand what we're saying is affecting people on multiple layers in this dimension and in others. So the ascension is grids on the outside, can be anywhere, although there are very strong ones. You can tap in anywhere because we are like that. We're batteries like that. We can attract and send. We're continuously doing that whether we're aware of it or not. Thank you.
Well, the way I look at the earth, the physical earth, is that light shall appear in the darkness, and the darkness shall comprehend it not. To put it another way, there are interference patterns on the planet. When several signals of energy are put into any set of energy, there are interference patterns that occur. For instance, if this was a pond of water, and I had a gate across the middle of this pond with two openings, and I dropped a pebble on this side, the waves would go out, hit this fence, go through the two openings, two waves would then come out, and the waves would interfere with one another and hit the other side. Now, where a wave hits a wave, you get twice the energy. Where a wave hits the trough, it cancels out, you get zero. So you have this interference pattern that occurs. This is the grid that appears on the earth. There are places where energy increases, constructively interferes with itself, and these are places where great amounts of connection can be made between a human and the planet. There are places where the energy cancels itself out. These are voids, these are dark zones. Now, the interesting thing about the human race is we are also beings of varying degrees of light. There are dark beings on this planet, believe it or not, and there are light beings on this planet. We are now gravitating to those interference patterns. We're aligning ourselves with those nodes of energy all around the planet. If you could see it with the spectrograph, you'd understand what I'm talking about. I show it graphically in my presentation, but it's basically light attracts light and darkness attracts darkness. Now, I used to think when we declared 2019 to be the year of light, that we would all gather in one place and we'd have this huge bonfire, human bonfire light. That's not the way it works. The way it works is we spread the light around the earth. We assume on these nodes around the earth, and there are millions of them around the planet, and then we crank up the light. And when we do, we drive the darkness back into the shadows where it belongs. And that's what we're in the process of doing. So we don't have to come all together in one big conference and do this, although we're going to learn how to do it here. Then we're going to go home. And then we're going to crank up the light on that node that's closest to us. And that's when the planet is going to resonate with us. 8 billion of us, okay, maybe 4 billion of us, because 4 billion dark souls, 4 billion light souls. This is the way it's going to happen. They will assume the dark places, we will assume the light places, and then the planet will actually divide. It will come apart. It will do what Revelation calls the grand division. The light will be present in the darkness, and the darkness will comprehend it not. So that's the alignment.
Profound. Thank you so much. Would it give these amazing people a hand? I mean, this is just so wonderful. Thank you guys. So I want to shift into talking about multi-dimensionality a little bit, because that's such a fun topic for me, and I'm sure everybody in the audience as well. And I feel like the topics of quantum learning, quantum healing, and quantum communication are really starting to come more into the forefront of our consciousness and in our daily language. And so I was wondering if you guys could speak a little bit about how you've experienced that in your work, you know, what evidence you've found of it in others more recently than maybe in the past, and how everyone in the audience can take advantage of quantum learning and quantum healing and quantum communication, which could also be called telepathy, right? So take it away. Miss Laura, would you like to start?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
So, we're all obviously multidimensional, and we go through initiations in order to open that up. So we're kind of in this game of lost and found where it was just easy after all these cataclysms and digression of DNA, hybridization, and the whole idea of the tree of knowledge, which is our DNA, which gives us the lessons of duality. And the lessons of duality is all about gaining self-knowledge, but self-knowledge got targeted with mind control, and instead of gaining self-knowledge, we've looked outside of ourselves for information, which is fine to a certain degree, but what it's done is it's externalized our spirituality, it's externalized our medical care, it's externalized the way we process information. So if we process it through downloads and through our wisdom body, we are told we have ADD if we can't sit still in class, which was one of my labels that I got when I was young. And I joke, attention on different dimensions, which I'm sure everybody has heard is really what it is. So here we are. No matter how advanced we are, it's going to be difficult to move through those early years and not be taken seriously. And that's why a lot of people lose connection with it. And so what is most important for us to realize is that the true learning comes from our own experience and what comes through us. And this manipulation of knowledge has kept us in this duality for such a long period of time, because we're waiting for something to either rescue us or some sort of solution or some sort of medical breakthrough. And yes, there are important advanced technologies, and the ones that are the most important are the ones that somebody like Tracey works with, which relate to frequency, sound, color, and DNA and vibration and certain locations on the planet and this and that. but we're at this cusp right now of having this outer world trick us into thinking that we need transhumanism and AI and all these different kind of things to actually supplement our growth and lead us to believe that this is what is going to create a utopian future. These are huge breakthroughs on a scientific and technological level, and to a certain degree, yes, there are important technologies. But as this division happens, what we're going to understand is that we're the most advanced technology, and this greater learning is understanding that we have the keys to our own healing. Our physical body, when it gives us symptoms that are uncomfortable, it gives us an opportunity to be closer to ourselves versus further away. The further away is solve it for me, give me a drug to make the symptoms go away, when really when we step into the pain and we feel the pain and we talk to the pain, it gives us everything we need to grow, and it's actually our guide, and it's an important part of these initiations. The problem with this society is the initiations are not supported. There's no real guidance. Guidance counselors are just looking to put you in a label, like a doctor, lawyer, whatever. They don't look at the people that have true knowledge, medicine, and reminders of like what we're really made of. They're considered the outcasts. So it's really important now that we understand that whatever it is we're going through, the adversities, the challenges, the physical symptoms are that place in us that we can begin to open up, why it's there, and begin to allow those messages to take us into the multidimensional. And that is the greatest teacher. The most phenomenal teacher is our own life experience. And just as much as our physical body gets injured, when our life gets injured through a loss of job or relationship, there's synchronicities that come in the form of like the immune system would for our body, giving us synchronistic opportunities to move forward in a much more expanded way. But we've been taught to look at it as a failure or a misfortune, and we allow it to infect our self-worth to the point where we give our power away even more. And so this quantum learning is accepting the negative, the positive, and taking it upon ourselves to understand self-knowledge is the tree of knowledge. And once we gain enough self-knowledge, we begin to understand the importance of the dark and light, the root system in the earth. Our branches open up to the light, where that integration of light and dark restores the tree of life, which is our true DNA template. And that is the true learning, is that we accept all life experiences, no matter how dark and awful they are, because the stronger the wagon, the heavier the load sometimes. And a lot of advanced souls are taking on the harshest of experiences in order to rise above it for the rest of us. And this is something we can all do together. And we are the most advanced race because we're willing to put up with the biggest bullshit in the cosmos and come out the other end triumphant.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Being multidimensional means that you can hear and begin to be activated through the words and the actions and the thoughts and the feelings others have about the ascension process. I mean, that was complete embodiment. That was complete embodiment. That is complete embodiment. That is complete embodiment. And then we provide this multi-dimensional encodement, sacred encodement, which is a powerhouse to smash through the false matrix and the programming which sets us free. Like Laura said, like the phoenix. Now, I was out recently to Glass Mountain here to do a sacred woman only experience on Into the Void. And the guys go, that's not fair, I want to come too. So I said, okay, come. And so to step into the void means that we finally step in and we quiet ourselves. AI is going to restrict your ability to really step into yourself and really listen. So our multi-dimensional initiation and rebirthing is a remembrance of how multi-dimensional we have been in previous incarnations. So it's rather interesting currently because, I mean, we're hitting the 26,000 year time phase. We have been indeed sacred contracted to hold in our DNA and our memories, sacred and sovereign humanity and reality. Multidimensional means we are it, and it's live and it's visible, and you can feel it in the vibration of the words and the thoughts and the feelings and the actions of those who are multidimensional, and the energy just grows and grows and grows. And when we sync up with people like that and we're grounded, I mean, you name it, it's going to activate it. You get telepathy, you get syncs, you are landed in exactly abundance and opportunities that just go, yes, this is your path, this is your destiny, more, 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 more. And it's this real snowballing impact. And you get stronger. And that means your multidimensional self can hold itself without question, without hijack. And when you start, or if you indeed get hit by a hijack, you can goddamn reset yourself. And that's what this is about. It's about finding our center, finding the center of the reason why we exist. You know, we're coming back into the void. We're coming back into the sacred feminine and the balance of sacred masculine too. The two pathways, they're mystery school pathways. You need to learn both, and we need to upgrade our trainings, and we need to upgrade ourselves to really understand that when we're really in our purpose, we're going to trigger the multidimensional reality of who we are. You know, that is huge stuff in terms of generating a planetary grid of individuals who are equipped to change the world like that. So, where do we belong in terms of our allegiance? And where are we creating attachments? These are reality gateways. Think about your attachments. Think about how aware you are. Beyond a panel like this, beyond quoting or imitating or any of those things, it's in the simplicity of our awareness. Ascension is awakening. Yeah?
Yes.
Ascension is embodiment. Ascension is the most advanced spirituality we can possibly have. I mean, and that heals us on every single level of being. I mean, you won't even require anything that is false matrix prescribed on any dimension of life. I mean, it's like, fuck it. Yeah? That's what being multidimensional is. Because we recognize what is healthy for us rather than not. And it's in our awareness that we become discerning. Being multidimensional, I can't stand spiritual stuff that is like, woo, I can't stand that crass spirituality, bullshit healing, all of those things. The real path is phenomenally here. And those metaphysics go live. And I just want to say one thing. The stuff that Brooks was talking about, the light and the darkness, I get prophecies, and I'll share those in my workshop experience. When we go multi-dimensional, we're going to invoke the ancient ones, the ancestors, and they go live. So the prophecies speak about the ancient ones and the mythologies and the mythical creatures. They all go live too when we open the gateways, because we are interdimensional, multidimensional here on this planet. That's when we get contact. That's when we get, this is who I am, and we are not alone in our universe. Come on, guys. It's time to trigger and complete yourself into the void. The Black Star. I mean, I love David Bowie, but listen to his final album, Black Star. You complete yourself. And then you won't be coming back for those of you who are very, very, very committed that this is the last time in terms of this particular reality experience. And, you know, once your job is done, your job is to heal yourself properly, which is listening to the instructions of your sacred destiny. When we get that right, we go through into the central sun, just as these people described. Now, can I just quickly say, tiny one more thing? Okay.
20 minutes.
Okay. So when you go dimensional, it's like I open gateways. So when I was out in Uluru, I mean, I open gateways, the wind comes. You know, you're activating the planetary grid. We checked this, and NASA had released some photographs of our sun. And there were gateways that had been opened on the sun on the same day. This is what we must do. We must open the gateways beyond anything we've ever experienced in this arena ever before. We got to transcend all the limitations of this arena and the information that we've been given. We got to start to travel. We got to put our wings back on. And the real initiation gives you that. And it's here. It's here. It's here. Yes? Sorry. I just get too excited.
Sorry. Ooh, wow.
Woo!
It's a great place to be right here in the middle. But you know, we are all waking up. It's really that time now. It's time for us to wake up from the dream. And little by little, day by day, we start to kind of like maybe question little ideas that we thought that this was real, this table was real, or this whatever. We thought it was real. And we start to find out that as solid as it feels, as solid as these ideas, as solid as these beliefs that we've held our whole life, that we've been taught, that they're really not who we are. And we're something more. That we really are multidimensional. That we really do come from the stars. That we really are the people that we were waiting for. We are the ancestors waking up to the places, as Brooke says yesterday, about the Stargate. That, you know, we placed them there so many lifetimes ago to remind us to wake up this time. Because we are at a place now where we are bringing more of us together that has ever been here. If we look around and we see this three-dimensional reality of who we think we are in the human flesh, you know, I see a little kitty cat over there, you know, the Kazinti, there's just, we've come from so many different places. And I love the theme of the avatars, come as your avatar. Whatever that is, you know, people get into our mind, oh, I'm not really sure. Just put on your glad rags or put on your, you know, whatever it is about who you are to bring that forward. It's just a chance to just step into that void. Step over the edge of the mountain or the wherever you are. The what?
Over the abyss.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And you'll find that you can fly. You know, we are really ready. This is the time. Things are coming together. And if you look at the cycles of these planets that have not really come together in Earth and then in air, you know, the solidity coming down into this dimension. We have all signed on to be here now. And that multidimensionality of who we are, you know, it's astounding to kind of start to experience the quantum level of each and every one of us. As that two-strand DNA starts to multiply into all the strands, really of who we are that has been locked away. You know, with the Stargates, the work that I do, the guide at the Stargate, Alcazar, says, you are the Stargate. But it has the doors to who you are have been closed for so long. It is now time to open them. It is in each and every one of us to be that multidimensional quantum being that we are to remember. And it'll, you know, it comes in different ways. And perhaps years back, you know, in this third dimensional time spectrum, you know, you were squashed. I know I was told I was wrong. I was like, oh, you can't, that's not it. Well, just stop looking at the purpose of life. Who cares? Just you know, get married, have children, whatever it is in our lives. And I can't even think of the word, but each and every one of you who has taken that path on, I honor you. Because to be able to, I mean, for myself, I just kind of kept cutting the cords in my life all along. You know, I'm just, you know, I really realize I have stepped into my sovereign beingness. And wow, sometimes I think about that and my mind will come in and go, oh, well, you know, serial monogamy has been like my type of relationship. And now I have like cut that, because I realize my purpose, my openness, my heart just really wants to be in that space of, I don't even have the words for it. It's that connection to all that I am, all that we are, and to experience it more and more and more. So thank you. Thank you. Oof, that's a good.
It's Laurie, quantum communication.
Well, we already have a quantum mind. It's the superconscious. The conscious mind is what we're communicating in right now, or beta brainwave. The subconscious mind is more like a computer hard drive, just accepting your information. The superconscious mind is what activates the multidimensionality. So know it this way. We are multidimensional. We are on the planet right now on purpose. All of us on the panel, all of us in the room. We chose to be here. I remember choosing to come here. I also remember the first time I was on the planet. I love the earth. I love the planet Earth, and I absolutely love being in a body. To be in a body, to feel that groundedness, to walk on the grass and feel yourself sinking in. It's truly amazing. I love being a human. It's far more important than you might understand. The human experience is extraordinarily relevant in not only the multidimensional, but in uplifting the ascension process for all of us. Being a human, being that light embodied being, allows us to stand in our sovereignty and to accept everyone and everything from a non-judgmental, unconditional, loving perspective. So an empowered, balanced, well-grounded person on the path of ascension, using their quantum mind to communicate past time and space, pushing their developmental learning so that they can come in and out of their body at will, to have that lucid dreaming, to feel that telepathy. You know, once I was at, I was in Berkeley, and I was listening to the Dalai Lama, and I had gone to hear him talk, and they introduced His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, and he came and he sat down in the middle of the stage, and this huge audience all became quiet. You could hear a pin drop. The Dalai Lama, then he rings a bell, and the reverberation of it begins to spread through the audience, and then it stopped, and it funneled, and it hit me in the chest. And I was wearing at the time a chime of the planet Earth. It was a globe, and it hit it and it rang, right? And everybody turned and looked at me like, well, I couldn't believe it, right? Because I didn't mean it, right? I didn't do this on purpose. And the Dalai Lama, he caught my eye. And at the end of speaking, he sent some people to bring me out of the audience to talk with him. And we stood there for about 5 or 6 minutes, not speaking a single word, but deeply communicating on a beautiful telepathic level. And then we finished and we parted, and everybody said, what did they say? What were they saying? I couldn't hear them. I didn't hear what they were saying. And so I knew exactly what he was saying. We were remembering another time. And so years later, after I'd become a clinical hypnotherapist, somebody put a flyer on my car and it said, hey, there's this really cool sand art. And I'm like, I'll be there. So I go to this arena, and all of these monks are creating just beautiful mandalas. And I'm standing there looking at one. I felt the Dalai Lama. All of a sudden, the door opens and he walks through and he's like, Laurie. And I couldn't believe for a moment that he would remember me like I remembered him, because I'm sure this probably happens to him a lot more. But the communication between us was that of an equality. He was trying to get me to understand. And actually, though, some higher stuff too, he'd been being attacked by some dark forces, and so it came with a bit of a warning that whenever we're together and we're communicating with telepathy, or there are, I don't know, some little consciousness monitoring devices around the earth are going, uh-oh, watch those humans. They're advancing, set them back a couple of steps, right? So we have to be careful on this multidimensional. But just remember, you're already multidimensional, and that you're suffering from amnesia. It's all right. You're going to be okay. But as we wake up, we'll begin to understand that we are this beautiful, all-encompassing, loving spirit, and that we're here to hold each other's hands, to support each other through our communities, and to be able to hold that energetic space when one of us breaks down. So when we see one acting out in huge ego, know that however big their ego is, that's how deep their wounds are. So don't repel, move in, okay? Hold that space. Allow them to fall so that they can get back up. And like a good mom, when a child falls down, you don't rush and pick them up. You say, come on now, you can do this. Get up, take that next step. And that's what we need to do with each other, a loving, gentle kindness. So the ascension, the quantum, the multidimensionality, it's all here. We're figuring it out. And as we continue to awaken, we're awakening to that higher place where we can look into each other's eyes and not feel anything but love and acceptance and security, feeling well grounded in the planet Earth, but forever aspiring unto the light.
When you say the word quantum to a physicist, you know what you're going to get, right?
Math.
There are two observatories that were built in the United States. One's in Hanford, Washington, the other's in Livingston, Louisiana. I've worked at both these facilities. They're the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatories. That'll be on the test later. These are giant Michelson-Morley interferometers. They use laser beams going down these 4-kilometer long concrete tunnels. They evacuate all the air out of. I'll show some pictures of it in my presentation. But they're designed to measure the warp in space-time from gravitational waves coming through our solar system. Now, after they went through $100 million, they went back to Congress and got more money, believe it or not, because they wanted to measure a black hole directly. Last year, the team won the Nobel Prize for doing this. When I was there, they hadn't done it yet. But I was talking with Dr. Fred Robb, who runs the one in Hanford, Washington, and he said the strangest thing to me. He said, Brooks, we're actually seeing particles pop into our dimension from another dimension. Yeah. I said, what? this is a government facility. You just told me something. He said, yeah, but you're paying for it. So, you know, you're here. I'm telling you, we're seeing particles pop into our dimension from another dimension. So we started talking about what makes up the particle. What particles are we talking about? Well, we're talking about protons. There's only one real particle in the universe, and that's a proton. And electrons, which we don't really know much about. I mean, we know how to use them, we know how to measure them and how to quantify them, but we don't know where they come from. I could take a copper wire and rub a magnet along it, and electrons will flow out the end, and it never runs out. And we're like, where are the electrons coming from? Well, we don't know. I mean, we've been working on this a long, long time, and we don't know. And we don't know if they'll ever run out, but they don't. So we're not even really sure if they're different electrons or just all the same electron. We don't even know that. But what we do know about protons, because we've splattered the little beggars apart about a gazillion times in CERN, because we inflate them really big to about 14 tera electron volts, and then we smack them apart. And when the little beggars come apart, we measure all the shards of frequencies that come out of them, and we think we have the menu now for all the subatomic particles that make up a proton. But for all that and all that money, we can't make one proton. We can't make a single proton. What we do know is that not all protons are alike. Hydrogen protons, helium protons, iron protons, they're different, only in the sense that they have less stuff in them. So what we've settled on is that protons are actually holographic. They actually have what we call stochastic presence. I'm trying to make this very concise. It's in my presentation, but lines per inch. So if you look at a really sharp image of something, it may have 200 lines per inch or 200 dots per inch, DPI, like for your printer. If you look at something kind of fuzzy, then it may have 60 dots per inch. That's the difference between protons. All the same colors are there, just different quantities of the same colors. So I'm talking to Fred and I'm saying, so what do these particles tell us when they come into our dimension? Well, we actually get information from them. This is a conversation that Stephen Hawking and Sir Roger Penrose and I had 10 years ago. We were talking about what happens to a particle when it gets close to a black hole. Stephen said it clones itself and the clone falls into the black hole, so we're leaking information out of our universe. So I said, well, if that's true, then what if there's a black hole in another universe and it's cloning and the particles are coming into our universe? So we're exchanging information.
Talking parallel universes?
Well, we don't even know if they're parallel. We have several theories about that, but I'm gonna just stay on track here. Stop asking questions. I told you quantum mechanics is a very sick world, but let me see if I can put this. So the information that we're getting, we get whether the star is rotating or not rotating, whether it's approaching us or going away from us, and we're trying to get more and more information about the other side. What is that like? And this comes down to a probability experiment, a thought experiment that we had. What is the probability of a carbon-based universe? Well, we had all kinds of numbers, like 10 to the 99th. We were putting formulas into the standard model to cancel out all the infinities and all the zeros, and none of it made any sense. And then it came to me. The probability's 1. The probability's 1. Only carbon-based universes can form. And they said, why? I said, because of the golden mean. The golden mean is universal, 1.618 to 1, this instantaneous rate of change. That's where the nodes fall. So what we didn't know is, what's the freaking origin of the golden mean? Last year, they derived it. And I'm going to share that in my presentation. I can't go into it right now because you need pictures to see it. No, it's a Gossett polytope, but you have to see a visual of it in order to understand how it goes together. But we found the source of the golden mean. And now physics is on its head. Brain theory's out, string theory's out, everything's been replaced, and now we're all going back to school. I don't want to go back to school, I know stuff. So anyway, that's where we are. So the thought experiments are getting really, really amazing right now, and we're going to see, I don't know what's going to happen to the Nobel Prize in Physics. We'll have to issue like 6 or 7 of them a year because it's changing very, very quickly. But this is what it boils down to, is this quantum communication. We have those instruments. It cost us like $180 million to build. And they are not as sensitive as we are. This biological transducer is better than those instruments.
True.
But they're still pretty bizarre. You need to see them. They're really amazing.
Talk like that.
What's that?
It's good to hear scientists talk like that.
I know, I'm perverted, but I told
In a
you
good
know,
way.
Sir Roger Penrose said, I think it was in '97, he said, consciousness is derived from quantum gravity. So we kind of sat on that for a while, and I wrote him back, and I said, nah, I think you're wrong about this. I think you're wrong. I think quantum gravity derives from consciousness. For a long time, we thought there were 4 forces in the universe, right? Gravity, electromagnetism, strong and weak molecular forces. That's every textbook you pick up is going to say that. Last year, we added consciousness. Like, what? That's the fine line. But they added it as number 5. So I republished it as consciousness as number 1.
Excellent.
Because I think he's still alive, Amit Goswami is a friend of mine. We talk about downward causation, about there being a primal cause of the universe. And we see echoes of it all through the universe, in the periodic table, in the organization of chaos. There is this downward causation, but we didn't know what it was. Some people call it God, some people call it the Great Spirit. We didn't really know what it was. But so we stopped trying to name it, and we just quantified it. We just started to work on it. So that's consciousness to me. So I moved consciousness into the first spot, and that's my position. And now the physics community is arm wrestling over that, and I'm winning.
Good.
Wow. Thank you guys so much. What an amazing panel we had here. It's, unfortunately, we're out of time. Is there something happening in this room next?
I've got
Right
no
away?
idea.
Because we could take one question for one panelist.
Half a question.
Yeah, we're out of time, but I'll take one
2 half
question
questions.
from one panelist. You had your arm up first.
Okay,
Great.
so this one's for Tracey. How do you know if you are experiencing a hijack?
Ooh, good question.
What's the question?
How do you know if
How
you're
do you know if-
experiencing a hijack?
Consciousness.
It won't
hijack.
feel right, and you'll feel it rather than know it. They'll show up. They won't respect your healthy boundaries, etc., etc. Done a lot of work on detecting timeline chasers because I tend to attract quite a lot, because obviously our contracts have been put into place over lifetimes, and there's been a lot of contracts that are set up to really hijack the evolution of our consciousness. So number 1, we feel it, and also we see it, because hijacks are always non-helpful. That's it.
Can I
And
add
you'll
one thing to
feel
that?
this, yeah.
The wavelength to a hijack is long, so it resonates with the lower chakras, from the heart down. You'll feel it like your stomach fall out. And that's how you'll know you're being hijacked. The other influence, which is not a hijack, it's an upgrade, it happens here in the throat and crown chakras, because the wavelength's very short.
And I wouldn't mind adding just a piece too. Just sense into yourself and trust your instincts and ask yourself, does this feel right? Does this resonate to your truth? You can trust that you'll have the right answer inside, and you can reject any hijacking that's not resonating with your truth.
It's usually connected with someone attempting to steal your life force and your power.
Your power.
If someone's downsizing you, it's a subtle hijack. You know, so you need to become very grounded and still, so that you can really begin to detect what's authentic and what isn't, correct?
Yeah, people need to
Yeah.
learn how to feel energy
Yeah.
so you can differentiate between the subtle and the gross energies and where they're hitting you.
A lot of you aren't particularly well trained, and I think it's also part of, you know, AI and this, we learn through the internet or imitation or quoting, but becoming more equipped and strong so that we can survive the challenges of the false matrix, the clearly designed hijacks of the false matrix, which they are. They hit you on a frequency level, as Brooks described. You know, you feel it. As you get stronger, you become more robust and aware of the manipulations, the subtle manipulations as well. And if you don't get it at first, you'll definitely get it. So you're always winning, because non-truth and the hijack will always be revealed. So you may have a collapse depending on how strong that hijack is. Seek out experts who can help you. For example, we had a major hijack in our family last year. I mean, it was major. I mean, it almost destroyed one of my daughters. And my daughter and I, we sat in the sacred. We held sacred space. When you're hijacked, you'll know about it. It is designed to destroy you. It's designed to prevent you from evolving. You know, this is the collective, this is the personal as well, when we're synced up with those particular agendas. Make sure you create your sacred space so that you can connect with the resource that sees you through. And that saves your life, it saves your evolution, it saves your sacred path, and it saves you. And then you're learning to support yourself. Great energy is gold. I mean, you feel it, it's delicious. It's like how these panelists have been so giving, so generous, and there's a resonance. And when you see that, a hijack is completely the opposite. So if you can experience what is real, and this is massive in our communities, because we speak a lot about becoming whole, multidimensional, being sacred, etc., etc. However,
I'm good, sorry.
yeah, but however, we gotta know what the difference is. And when we understand the difference, then we'll be able to see the potential hijacks detected, despite how manipulative the behaviors are, and the persuasion of words, and the smiles on faces, where there's a really manipulative agenda in minds. I mean, the more work you do on yourself, the more the truth is revealed. And when you're powerful and when you're sacred, then you start to weed out the hijackers. And that's important because the metaphysics take care of you. And it magnetizes a potential issue. But also at the same time, you become sacred protected, sacred sealed, which ensures your rite of path. So you're gathering strength rather than not. So that's an important aspect. Great question, man. But you're coming to work with me anyway. I mean, it's time to really go, boom, let's do this. Yeah? Protecting our own. Yeah? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. What an amazing talk this has been, and you've been so generous with your knowledge and your wisdom and your heart. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you guys. Let's give it up for Tracey, Laura.